Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Sarah Wong. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. Daily COVID cases in Hong Kong climb above 800. Carrie Lam defends her unpopular extradition bill, but says it wasn't promoted properly. And Prince Charles wades into the controversy over Britain's asylum policy. Hong Kong has recorded the highest number of new COVID cases in almost 2 months. This comes as outbreaks were linked to another 2 bars. Macy Mok reports.
The 851 new COVID infections reported today were the highest since April the 15th. 74 of them were imported.
I think the number of cases, positive cases, has gradually increased during the past 1 or 2 weeks, from around 200 to 300 to around 600 to 800 at present. But fortunately, we have not observed any increase so far in the admission figures as well as the number of serious or death cases at present. So we will closely monitor the situation to see whether there is any increase in the burden in the healthcare system.
There were 2 new outbreaks in bars. 18 people who visited Rex City in Central last Saturday became infected. The patrons drank alcohol, played pool, and danced. 13 people who went to FLM in Sheung Wan also contracted the virus. One of them had earlier gone to a bar in Central called LINQ, which spawned its own cluster. Further analysis is needed to determine any link between the 2 venues. 5 additional infections took the cluster at the Shuffle nightclub in Central to 118. Outbreaks have been linked to 6 pubs and nightclubs since social distancing measures were relaxed 3 weeks ago. Maisie Mok, HKIBC.
Government Pandemic Advisor David Hui says Hong Kong can ease quarantine measures for overseas arrivals, but the incoming administration will have to talk to Beijing and decide on priorities. Here's Macy Mok again.
Hong Kong's existing social distancing measures are set to remain in force until the end of this month. During a radio discussion, Pandemic Advisor David Hui said the incoming government will have to discuss with Beijing before deciding whether to ease quarantine further for arrivals after July the 1st.
Currently, we have achieved reasonably high vaccination rates, so we do have the capacity to reconnect with the outside world. However, to a lot of people, reopening the border with the mainland is also very important. So they have business there, they have families there. So I think the new government needs to renegotiate with the National Health Commissions on the criteria for reopening the border and then work out from there.
Hui said if resuming quarantine-free travel with the mainland is not feasible, the government can consider easing restrictions for overseas arrivals by shortening their quarantine and allowing them to isolate at home. He also played down fears following a rebound of COVID cases.
Currently, we are only seeing like BA2.12.1 and BA.4, BA.5. These are only sub-variants of the Omicron. And the current vaccines like the Sinovac and BioNTech, they are still highly effective in preventing severe disease, hospitalization, and death.
Hui added that people do not have to be overly anxious about a 6th COVID wave. Maisie Mok, HKIBC.
Macau is shortening the quarantine period for arrivals to 10 days instead of 2 weeks. The new arrangement takes effect on Wednesday, but visitors will still be required to have 2 jabs. Macau has allowed tourists from low-risk regions of the mainland to skip quarantine. The exemption will be extended to Hong Kong travelers if quarantine-free travel between the city and the mainland is resumed. Outgoing Chief Executive Carrie Lam has insisted that it was correct to propose an extradition amendment bill, but blamed her ministers for failing to address the concerns of the public. She also admitted that housing remains a problem, but said her government has laid the groundwork for her successor. Isaac Lee reports.
As her 5-year term draws to a close, Chief Executive Carrie Lam appeared on a radio show to defend her performance. She said her team did more than what she had promised in her election platform, but admitted they could have done better in dealing with the opposition during the 2019 anti-extradition protests.
She
said senior officials did not properly explain the bill, which triggered more than 6 months of social unrests. Lam said she had no regrets in proposing the bill, insisting that it was necessary to stop fugitives from using the city as a refuge. She had aimed to unite the government and citizens, but the protests, which were violent at times, further polarized society. Lam said she had worked hard to improve her relationship with those in the opposition camp, but said whenever they had the chance, they would test the tolerance of the authorities. The outgoing chief executive admitted that the housing problem remains a challenge, but she said her team has identified 350 hectares of land for public housing in the coming 10 years. Lam added that she will not set up a think tank to advise the incoming administration, saying that's tantamount to interference. She will be succeeded by her former number 2, John Lee, on July 1st. Exactly, HKIBC.
A new senior counsel says the judiciary needs time to adapt to the National Security Law, or NSL.
We all understand the concerns that every citizen in Hong Kong has been encountering once the NSL has been promulgated like around 2 years ago. We need to give time to not only the lawyers but also the courts to understand and how to apply the NSL in a law compliant and also in a safeguarding human rights situation.
Ma was one of 5 barristers appointed as senior counsel by Chief Justice Andrew Chang this morning. 4 of them, including Ma, specialize in civil lawsuits. Tony Lee, who usually deals with criminal cases, said the national security law has not undermined the rule of law. Police have arrested 208 people in an anti-triad operation codenamed Levington. Officers raided bars and mahjong parlors in several districts, including Central, early this morning. Those arrested were suspected of injuring others, trafficking dangerous drugs, and possessing offensive weapons. Fixed penalty tickets were issued to 139 people who breached anti-COVID curbs. The arrest came a day after a gang fight in Central injured 3 people, including one who was shot. Overseas, Britain's Prince Charles has triggered a controversy by reportedly calling the government's migrant policy appalling. His comment came as the High Court gave the green light for the first batch of asylum seekers to be deported to Rwanda under the new rules.
Immigration campaigners in Britain have been up in arms since the Conservative government introduced a policy to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda. The first removal flight is set to take off next week after Home Secretary Priti Patel struck a deal with the African nation around 6,500 kilometers away from London. The High Court has refused to block the flight, citing material public interest for Patel to carry out her policies. That means around 31 refugees, including those who fled war-torn Syria and Afghanistan, will await their asylum claims in Rwanda. Patel, whose own parents were welcomed in Britain in the 1970s when dictator Idi Amin expelled Asians from Uganda, hailed the court decision. But rights groups and activists will go to the Court of Appeal to challenge the High Court ruling. A judicial review on the full scale of the deportation policy is expected by the end of next month. The government's migrant policy has caught the attention of the heir to the British throne. Sources said Prince Charles was appalled and disappointed by the migrant scheme, which is aimed at stopping Asians and Africans from crossing the English Channel to seek asylum in Britain. Charles is set to represent his mother, Queen Elizabeth, at a Commonwealth gathering in the Rwandan capital, Kigali, later this month. He insisted that he is politically neutral and vowed not to intervene in policy making.
Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin has reiterated Washington's adherence to the One China policy. But at a security summit in Singapore, he accused Beijing of destabilizing the Taiwan Strait.
Our policy hasn't changed. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be true for the PRC. Part of our One China policy, we will continue to fulfill our commitments under the Taiwan Relations Act. And that includes assisting Taiwan in maintaining a sufficient self-defense capability. And it means maintaining our own capacity to resist any use of force or other forms of coercion that would jeopardize the security or the social or economic system of the people of Taiwan.
Austin's remarks angered Beijing, with Defense Minister Wei Fenghe condemning Washington for selling weapons to Taiwan. The general pledged China's determination to fight anyone trying to seize the island. Wei and Austin also discussed the situation in the South China Sea and the war in Ukraine. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un says his country's defense has to be strengthened because of serious security challenges. His call came during a plenary session of the ruling Workers' Party. Kim avoided criticizing the United States or neighboring South Korea, despite his warning of security threats. Instead, he defended his missile testing program as vital for protection. Kim also ordered his army and military scientists to carry out what he called militant tests, but no details were given. Inflation in the United States has jumped to 8.6%, a fresh 40-year high. Food and energy bills soared, hitting low-income American households particularly hard.
I understand inflation is a real challenge to American families. Gas prices at the pump, energy and food prices account for half of the monthly price increases since May. My administration is going to continue everything we can to lower the prices to the American people, and the Congress has to act, and they have been of late.
Biden took aim as U.S. oil giants and singled out ExxonMobil, which, in his words, made more money than God this year. With petrol prices hitting $5 a gallon, the president called for oil production to be speeded up. Biden also urged Congress to cut the cost of prescription drugs and shipping. A historical building in Causeway Bay has been revitalized to tell the story of a ritual which local residents have preserved for over a century to wish for health. Chief Executive Carrie Lam was at the opening ceremony of the Tai Hang Fire Dragon Heritage Center. A dragon dance was performed outside the center, which had been a Confucian school during the late Qing period. And now displays artifacts and hosts talks related to the fire dragon dance, which is listed as an intangible cultural heritage of China. The project is the first to bring together a historical structure in the local tradition recognized by the mainland authorities. On to the weather now. Tomorrow will be mainly cloudy with occasional showers and thunderstorms in the morning. Temperatures range between 26 and 30 degrees. Hot and sunny on Monday before it turns wet and cloudy on Tuesday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Saturday night. Join us for more updates at 11. I'm Sarah Wong. Thanks for watching. Please stay safe and take care.